Welcome to Retire Smart Maryland. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Prashant Sabapathy and Ozzie Koolhagel of Elite Income Advisors. Thank you for joining us. Prashant, how are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. And Ozzie, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
Good. I love being with both of you, so thank you for allowing me to be a part of the show every week. I want to talk to you about something very impactful and so important to talk about today would be all of the baby boomers that are actually getting ready to retire. Let's talk about that. The statistic currently says it could be around 11,200 baby boomers getting ready every single day to retire. Whoa, that's incredible.
So I think they just update the number.
Yeah,
it used to be 10,000.
It used to be 10,000, but we were talking before the show started that it actually increased. So it's crazy to know that there are so many more people. It's incredible. And how is that going to impact the economy overall? What are we looking at?
So I think two things come to mind is the strain that it's actually going to put on different social safety nets that we have, right? So let's talk for a second about Social Security. The reason I want to talk about Social Security is, believe it or not, I'm less interested about optimizing or maximizing Social Security. Most of our clients have done a really good job saving money. And so when we talk about Social Security, we're talking about it from the context of what happens early in the 2030s decade where Social Security is underfunded. I mean, the program has come out and said that they do not have the money to pay 100% of benefits. And so with that being said, the more people that are retiring, the more of a strain that it actually puts on the Social Security system. You got to think, Social Security was never intended to be a program that tens of millions of Americans collected on all at once.
True.
Right? And now what's happened is people are relying on that income, and that's created a shortfall. So what that inherently means is something has to change. And intuitively, if there's a funding issue with Social Security, what that tells me is they have to figure out a way to close the funding gap. And what is the best way to close the funding gap from the government's perspective? It's increasing taxes. So I think that is one side of it. The second side of it is Medicare, right? So I mean, like, as people get older, they are going to consume more health care.
Of course.
And so Medicare has unfunded liabilities, Social Security has unfunded liabilities. I think as a pre-retiree or retiree, you just got to think of the what ifs, right? Like Oz and I, we always say we try to plan for the worst case scenario.
Smart.
We're worst case scenario planners. And to me, the worst case scenario is what happens if they raise the full retirement age? What happens if they change Medicare or they increase premiums on Medicare Part B? How are you going to deal with that? Those are the questions that I think we have to start answering, especially when it comes to more affluent people. This is what people are really concerned about.
Sure, sure.
And most of the time, when we look at the budget in the Washington, most of the monies that they are collecting is going to Social Security funding and the Medicare funding. And this is a lot of money. And, you know, 11,200 retiring every day is only going to increase the money going into the sources. What they are going to do, you know, they're going to have to raise the taxes. Are you going to be ready?
People better be ready. Absolutely. Ozzie, what about this next one, the stress that it puts on pension funds when you have so many people that still have pensions that are all retiring at the same time? What does that do with the pension funds?
So that's the other subject that we've seen this, not without, you know, giving any names, but with the companies, they change their pension payments. Like I remember one of the airline, they changed their pension payment from giving a $10,000 to $2,000.
Right.
Can you imagine?
No.
You work all your life and your plan is this pension and the Social Security and $10,000 coming in. All of a sudden, you have 2,000 coming in. How are we going to close that gap?
Yeah, and so what you're seeing is companies offering lump sum pensions. I think this is becoming far more popular in this day and age. I mean, companies are looking for ways to offload pension liability because of increased longevity, because of the increased responsibility, quite frankly, of having to make that payment each and every month and year for the rest of the participant's lifetime. And so if I just offered you a lump sum, hey, you instead of collecting $2,000 a month, let me just give you a one-time lump sum, it's $475,000, and now you as the participant, you deal with it. that's good for the company. They've taken all that liability and taken it off their books. And so this is the really important part. If you've been offered a lump sum pension, you got to start thinking about what is the best way to turn that lump sum from a company asset into a family asset, right? And this is a lot of the pension planning that we do today surrounds, I've been offered a lump sum, how do I put it to the best use to create the income that I need in retirement, but then be able to pass it on to my heirs if something happens to me prematurely.
Sure, that makes sense.
Big deal. Yeah.
It absolutely is. And I want to ask you as well, Prashant, what about the labor market changes? What happens to economic implications overall with all of these people retiring?
Look, I think a lot of employers in this day and age are in pursuit of younger workers that are inherently less expensive to hire. But let's think about this. When I have higher income earners, what are those higher income earners doing? They're paying taxes. They're paying Medicare tax. They're paying Social Security tax, and most importantly, they're paying income tax. When I hire younger workers that maybe aren't quite as expensive, the tax receipts also go down as a result of me having to pay that employee less money, right?
Sure.
And so the gap is widening, right? So if you look at what the government spends every year versus what they bring in every year, it feels like every single year that gap widens, and that's a huge issue. Because at some point, we're going to have to get those two numbers closer together to have some sort of a balanced budget and to eliminate the deficit. Now, look, I don't know what's going to happen in Washington, D.C. I'm not an expert on that. But to me, as an outsider looking in and as someone who's concerned about the state of retirement in America, what I see is you never see politicians argue about how to cut spending. They're always arguing about how much to increase spending. One side might say, let's increase it a lot. The other side might say, let's only increase it a little bit. But nobody ever talks about how do we decrease it. And that is the fundamental issue, which I believe leads to a domino effect that will result in higher taxes for the American retiree. If you've never considered taxation as a part of your financial and retirement plan, pick up the phone, give us a call. We're going to open up our phone lines right now. Our team of operators is standing by. When you dial this phone number, 833-308-5200, you're going to be able to schedule a totally free appointment to come in and visit with our specialists at Elite Income Advisors. Now, when you come in to visit with us, you're not agreeing to become a client, but what you are doing is engaging with that process to get your own Retire Smart roadmap. It's going to include an income for life plan. It's going to include Social Security optimization. Most importantly, a conversation about how the threat of rising taxes could erode your net take-home income in retirement. If you've never been through that process before, it's a great way to see whether or not you're on track to your most fulfilling version of retirement. Starts with that phone number, 833-308-5200. Pick up the phone, dial now.
Prashant, thank you so much. Ozzy, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, that number to call is 833-308-5200. If you don't have a pen handy, go ahead, grab your smartphone. It's even simpler still. Just click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That will take you right to the landing page for Elite Income Advisors, and you can claim your spot accordingly. Remember, you've worked your entire life to get to the retirement years, and you deserve to have the retirement of your dreams. Don't miss this opportunity to call in, 833-308-5200. We're going to take a very short commercial break here on Retire Smart Maryland, but we're talking about the amount of baby boomers that are getting ready to retire. Well, what is that going to do to the housing market? Stay tuned.
My philosophy is that losses hurt more than gains help. And it's all about creating a strong foundation. And in my opinion, that foundation is the foundation of having income that you can always depend on.
Most of the financial advisors focus on the accumulation phase because that's the one who brings most of the revenue to the firm.
I believe that the strongest retirement plans are created with creating a solid foundation for where your income is going to come from, and then building the rest of the plan in as low risk of a way as possible.
That's why it makes us slightly different than other firms, that we focus on the distribution side, not the accumulation side. Distribution side is the most important part of the time because you're retired and you want to make sure you have all the income coming in.
While you're working, you're always just juggling money coming in and money going out. And when you retire, that doesn't really change. It's still very much about income coming in and expenses going out. What changes is where that income is actually going to come from. What we focus on is making sure that we can walk somebody from A to Z through their income, their investments, their insurance, their estate planning, their tax planning, and really wrap it all together in an easy to understand way that truly is focused on educating.
Welcome back to Retire Smart Maryland. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Prashant Sabapathy and Ozzie Koolhagel of Elite Income Advisors. And we're talking all about the baby boomers that are getting ready to retire. That number has increased to 11,210 per day. What? That's crazy. That's crazy. So overall, Prashant and Ozzie, I should ask you, when you're thinking about that, what happens to the housing market if we have all of these people getting ready to retire all at once? What happens?
Yeah, I think when it comes to, let's talk about long-term care for a second, right? Especially when we're talking about these assisted living communities or continued care retirement communities, which in Maryland, there's a bunch of them just, within 20, 30 miles of our office. We've seen increased demand for these CCRCs, these continued care retirement communities. And look, basic economics is when demand is high and supply is low, what happens to price?
Price goes up.
Price goes up, right? And so we have to start to think about this where it's not uncommon to see $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 upfront buy-ins just to get into some of these communities.
You're right.
That's a heck of a lot of money to have to come up with, but that's not where it ends. You still have to pay the extra $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month to live in those types of communities. I've talked about this a lot. My mother went through a long-term care situation, and at the very end, before she passed away, we were spending close to $10,000 per month just to take care of mom in the home, right? Now, we've seen that with our clients as well, where whether it's being taken care of in a nursing home, whether it's being taken care of in your house, it's a lot of income that you're going to have to come up with. And how do you come up with that income? A lot of people are having to sell their house, downsize, move to different communities to be able to make it happen. It all comes down to where's your income going to come from, and is that income going to afford you the lifestyle that you want while you're healthy, but also the income that you need to be able to take care of yourself when you get to retirement. Heaven forbid you have a long-term care situation in the future.
The other is, now, what's going to happen when we start selling these houses? So it's going to be, obviously it will be good for you, Cynthia, but there's going to be a lot of, supply. It's going to be out there. Then the price of the houses are going to go down. That's the other domino effect. Because we have a lot of clients selling their houses and moving into this, the facilities that providing all these good things for the clients.
I think the other thing is what's going to happen with younger generations getting potentially priced out, right? I mean, you've seen house prices go up, and we live obviously in one of the most affluent counties in America right now. And with that being said, with wage growth not being consistent with the real estate prices, you're seeing people being priced out of the housing market as well. So there's a domino effect from top to bottom on this, whether you're in a baby boomer generation or if you're a millennial. I think that there's a huge domino effect that eventually has to be reconciled. And so it's a challenging thing to go through. You want to have professionals in your corner to help you figure out what the right move is at any given point in time.
Sure. Because the next thing, Ozzie, talking about financial markets, what happens with all the investment withdrawals? If all of these people are withdrawing at the exact same time, what happens?
That's going to be another domino effect because, it's the same thing. When the reason most of the time the markets go down because there is some stuff happens and the dot-com bubble or the housing markets and the people started to selling. And the market goes down. It's the same thing. It's going to happen to the markets. Everyone is going to start to selling, and obviously, who's going to buy?
It's true.
Who's going to buy?
I think it's a scary thing to watch the market go down. Right when you need to access your money for retirement income. I mean, the old saying on Wall Street was buy low and sell high. Right? That's what it was. The challenge is when markets start to go down and you start to withdraw from your portfolio, not only are you locking in those losses by selling, you're actually compounding those losses by taking the withdrawal, which makes it really difficult to recover. And so with more people retiring and having to pull money out of the market as opposed to put money into the market, it creates a domino effect, I think, of what's going to happen in markets. So it's an interesting thing, and we take for granted, I think, a lot of, hey, I get paid every 2 weeks, and when I get paid, 15% of my paycheck automatically goes into my 401k. What happens when that whole thing stops? Scary thing to think about.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. What about shifting with investment strategies? Let's talk a little bit about that. How can that have an overall effect on our economy?
I think the rule of thumb was the older you get, the less risk you want to take. Now, the way that we look at things is that it all depends on how much income you're actually going to need. Believe it or not, we have 80-year-old clients that take the risk of 30 or 40-year-olds. But the reason they're able to do that is because they have a reliable pension that pays them an income each and every month. Now, conversely, we have people who are 50 years old who don't want to take any risk. And that's because they know they're going to need every single last dollar of their portfolio to be able to deal with their income issue in retirement. So with that being said, I mean, shifting strategies has to be a part of your overall plan, but inherently de-risking your portfolio means pulling money out of the market. When you pull money out of the market at mass scale, what happens? Markets tend to go down. Now, I'm not suggesting that baby boomers retiring is the only reason that we could see a market crash, but with the number of different issues that we're dealing with, I mean, you look at the geopolitical issues that we're dealing with, tax issues, economic issues, inflation. I think all these things together contribute in some way to market volatility. And so when we have volatile markets, where is your paycheck going to come from? I think looking at that old 4% rule is kind of an outdated way of looking at things. And I think as a society, we have to have a better plan in place for how we're going to deal with volatile markets.
Sure. Prashant, I think people need a copy of your book.
Yeah, the reason I wrote the book is I wanted to try to make retirement planning as simple as possible. Look, it's not necessarily easy, but I think what we can do is we can help make it simpler for folks to understand. And that's what this book does, Fiscal Health, Retirement Wealth. It's an easy read. I tried to write it in such a way that anybody could understand it. And what it's going to do is give you an opportunity to understand the different pitfalls that you need to be aware of for retirement. We talk about the risks that you'll face. We'll talk about where your paycheck is going to come from. We'll even talk about how taxes going up is going to erode your retirement income. So Fiscal Health, Retirement Wealth. Today's show will offer a totally free copy of the book. All you have to do is visit retiremaryland.com. Once you read the book, you'll probably want to come in and visit with our team, because that's what the book is designed to do, is educate you so that you can figure out where the red flags are. Our team is going to help you navigate through those red flags. It starts with that phone call, 833-308-5200. As an added bonus, you visit retiremaryland.com. I'll send you a free copy of my book, Fiscal Health, Retirement Wealth. It's your prescription for income generation, tax management, and financial peace of mind.
Prashant, thank you so much. Ozzy, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, the number to call is on your screen for this amazing book, Fiscal Health, Retirement Wealth. I love it. It's so easy to read and also just very, very invaluable for planning your retirement. That number, 833-308-5200. Or if you have your smartphone handy, go ahead, grab it, click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That will take you right to the landing page for Elite Income Advisors. You can claim a copy of your book and also claim a spot with the gentleman in the office. We're going to take a very short commercial break. We're talking about the baby boomers that are getting ready to retire, but let's talk about this for a moment. What if you are 5 years away from retirement? What are some things that you should be doing today? Stay tuned. We're going to cover those when we come back.
Just putting money away into a 401k every payday is rarely enough to retire comfortably. 401k savings are only one part of a comprehensive retirement plan. If retirement feels closer than you're prepared for right now, it's never too late to start saving and planning. Get started on your own personalized retirement roadmap by visiting retiremaryland.com, and you'll also receive a complimentary copy of my book, Fiscal Health, Retirement Wealth.
Welcome back to Retire Smart Maryland. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Prashant Sabapathy and Ozzie Coolhagel of Elite Income Advisors. We're talking all about all of the baby boomers that are getting ready to retire, a staggering number. But what if you're 5 years away from retirement? What should you specifically be doing in the viewing audience today? Ozzie, I want to ask you, what about financial planning and assessment? Should people be really thinking about that 5 years out from retirement?
I think they should, and most of the time I give people an example from one of my old managers that where I used to work at the big firm. That right before the housing market crisis, when we were working, and he had a calendar in his office, and he was like, Xing out all the time, and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
I'm counting for my retirement. Like, I'm retiring in April, and this was in January. I said, just I want to understand, what did you do to plan for your retirement? Well, 5 years ago, I sold everything, I own, and I put it in the money market. Just to be clear, we're not saying that you should be doing that, but
right.
Believe it or not, with this guy, what he did, he missed the whole housing market crash. But that was his way of planning, that he was 5 years away.
Yeah.
He didn't want to take a risk, and he calculated he has enough money to retire and take income out of from that account. And he has also a couple of other, fixed index annuities and so forth to create an income stream for himself. So he was in great space.
Yes.
So what you need to do is you need to sit down with a professional, take a look at your situation, take a look at your income needs, and you're going to have to switch from the growth mode to a distribution phase, right?
Yeah.
I think that's exactly right.
Yes.
I mean, at some point, losses will hurt you more than gains will help you. At a certain point in time, when you lose too much money, it simply takes too long to recover. And that's what assessing can do for you, is figure out where exactly you stand. Maybe you come in and you saved $1 million, and we find that you'll really only need about $600,000 to retire. At that point, all you have to do is just make sure that you avoid the catastrophic loss, and you're, with a high degree of certainty, going to be okay. The challenge is people in this day and age don't have access to the types of software and risk analyzation tools to actually do that assessment. And so that's what you're going to get when you come in to visit, is an actual assessment that's backed by research, backed by data, and backed by industry-leading software to figure out exactly where you stand. So assessing your position is the #1 place to start when it comes to being 5 years out from retirement.
Sure, that makes perfect sense. And then Prashant, you kind of just, alluded to this a little bit in our last segment, but the importance of planning for health care. We talked a little bit about long-term care and how expensive that can be, even in-home care. So 5 years out, people should really be planning for health care as well?
Absolutely. I think I read a Fidelity study recently that said that the average couple will spend over $300,000 in healthcare expense over the course of your retirement. I mean, $300,000+ is like buying a new house in retirement, right?
It is.
But imagine you're spending that on healthcare. And I think a lot of people take for granted what that cost of healthcare is actually going to look like. They just think, hey, when I get on Medicare, the government will take care of it for me. But then when you dive into the weeds on Medicare, you're realizing that you still have Medicare Part B premiums, you might have a Medicare supplement, you might have a prescription drug plan. Oh, by the way, the cost of Medicare Part B is linked to your income. So the higher your income is, the higher your premiums are.
Wow.
And by the way, all of that has nothing to do with the cost of long-term care. I think long-term care is oftentimes conflated with healthcare, and they're two totally different things. So you have to evaluate all of your health insurance options. You have to understand how the Medicare system works and how much you're going to incur in terms of costs for it, prescription drugs, and then you have to also look at long-term care. Healthcare, I think, other than taxes, I would say healthcare is probably the second
biggest.
most underplanned for thing for pre-retirees and retirees, and then taxes being the number one thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Ozzy, this next one I want to guide to you. How important is it to realize what your lifestyle and housing decisions will be if you're 5 years out?
Most of the time when we sit down with our clients, this probably the first question I do ask. So let's say you're going to retire within the next 5 years. Where are you going to retire to? Like, where is your kids? Are you want to be next to your kids? Or sometimes people would like to, move into a more tax, friendly states.
Right.
They want to downsize. They are living in a 5-bedroom house, 4,000 square feet, and they want to go to a rancher, so they want to sell that house. They want to go to, it's like, you're going to have to start planning for that. Where do you want to be? If your kids in California and Florida, are you going to be right in the middle?
Right.
Maybe somewhere in, Texas, or, some other places.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to start thinking about what are you going to do at your retirement. And most of the time, our clients, they would like to downsize and move closer to their kids.
Sure.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. I love that. That's a great one.
I think, let's talk about home modification for a second. Like, what we have a lot of people that have family homes that they've been in 30, 40, 50 years. Maybe they inherited it from their parents or what have you. And their wish is to leave it to their kids, right? So as you age, you have to age into that home as well. So what modifications are you potentially going to make? I have this great client who just built an addition on the home.
Great
and
idea.
it's an addition that has a full bedroom, suite, and everything else. And what they're going to do is they're going to move from the main part of their house into the addition so that they don't have to go up and down stairs, right?
Beautiful idea.
And the reason they're doing that is so that they can one day pass that house along to their 2 kids, right?
Yeah.
And so if they do that, what is the cost of modifying your house? Have you planned for that? Especially with inflation these days and the cost of materials, where are you going to come up with the extra $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 to make those types of modifications? So,
I've seen some clients putting an elevator into their home.
Actually, that's a good point.
That's another one. I'm like, believe it or not, can you imagine that thing is costing you like $80,000 to $100,000?
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So when you do a lot of this pre-planning, it allows you the opportunity to have the time that's required to save properly for your income needs and figure out strategies to help you actually maximize that retirement income. I think higher income leads to the best outcomes in retirement. If you're not sure what your retirement plan looks like, give us a call, 833-308-5200, or you can scan that QR code today to get a free copy of Fiscal Health and Retirement Wealth.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, thank you for spending time with us today. We look forward to seeing you back next week. Be safe, be happy, and be blessed. Take care.